let's clear up a potential misunderstanding which people might have about me. Nothing that I do or talk about is advocacy. I am not trying to tell you to think like me, be like me, act like me, share my opinions. What I seek is understanding. What I seek is for people to look at me and understand that this is a kind of person who exists, and that it's normal for this kind of person to exist. That it's normal for there to be plenty of people who have their own ways of going about things, who aren't trying to live their life to the consensus standard. I present this by and large via anime analysis. The reason I'm so steadfast about representing my off-kilter tastes and opinions is so that I can make the consensus something different. So that we can't come to the conclusion that there is a correct way to feel and then there's people who are just weirdos. I want you to know that every way you can feel is a correct way to feel. And this applies to every aspect of my life. And whenever people are telling me that they're worried about me or that they think I should change something, I have to wonder, what do they think my goal is? Because if you think that my goal is to project a clean image or to make friends with lots of people or to, I don't know, in any way reflect what maybe is your moral stance or lifestyle choice, that's not my goal. And again, nothing I'm doing is advocacy. I'm not telling you to imitate me. I'm asking you to understand me. As someone who spent a lot of my time growing up being laughed at, I want to explain the joke to everyone else so that I can be laughed with. Because all I see in all this is a certain humor. There's definitely a certain humor to the image you're seeing right now. There's a guy sitting in his room full of anime crap. Shelves and shelves of anime crap lining the walls, of cute little girls with guns, of cybernetic soldiers, with a strange microphone setup contraption, a TV tray that I've had for probably 15 years that I used to eat dinner off of when I was a child, with a mic arm rigged onto it for ease of use, filming myself on a phone camera, drinking a Korean cafe latte. Nothing about this is anything but hilarious. Talking slow and seriously, contrasting with everything around me. Some people would look at this and find it edgy or self-serious, that I think I'm some kind of genius, that I think I'm hot shit. It's not that I think I'm hot shit. It's that I think I'm as deserving of understanding and respect as anybody else. That every opinion can be worthwhile. Now, there's a few things I consider myself good at. Talking, writing, making fun videos. And I have pride in my ability to do those things. And when that pride is attacked, I have a tendency to attack back. I also have a tendency to, assert my place in this world that I'm in. Because it's the only thing that I do. It's my trade, craft. It's what I care about. I take it seriously. I have a hard time being criticized by people who aren't taking it seriously. It's easy for me to take criticism from other writers who take it seriously, other people who are doing the same kind of things, but better. In fact, to me, the mere existence of anyone better than me is criticism of me. The mere fact that there are people who I can read their writing and think, I haven't lived up to this yet. Or even just to see their lifestyle and see something in it that I want to achieve. Even if there's someone who maybe their work doesn't appeal to me as much as my own, but I see in their life that they've been more fulfilled than I've been. I see that as a challenge to myself to now achieve that kind of fulfillment. To me, everything I'm doing makes sense. If you see me, let's say, drinking in a lot of videos, this is a coffee, by the way, but you see me drinking beers pretty often. I've seen some people say things. Recently there was a comment that said, he was asking for my opinion about something, and someone said, well, he mentioned his opinion of that in the Anime Shit Now video, and this guy responded, he was drunk in that video. I want to know his real opinion. And I thought, this is such a bizarre statement. If there was anything I ever said in a video that I thought didn't represent what I really felt, I'd take it down. If I got so drunk that I misrepresented myself or said something stupid and then posted it anyways because I was too drunk to know better, then by the time I sober up, I can remove the video. Everything I say in a drunk video is exactly my thoughts. Sometimes there's clarifications needed. Sometimes I'm looser with my language than I would have been had I been completely of mind. But it's all the same me. There's not a different person there. I'm sure some of it's a lack of understanding of what it feels like to be drunk. There's a lot of people who are just like terrified of alcohol for one reason or another. People who think you're an alcoholic just because you show up on camera drunk a few times. When the reality is that I tend to turn a camera on when I've been drinking, not the other way around. So, there have actually been videos that I made so drunk that when I looked at them later, I went, that video is stupid. Yeah, not usually misrepresenting my point, just dumb. And I've destroyed them. But the reason that I'm drinking in these videos is that it's helping to make these points. It's helping me to say things that I don't think I have the energy to say when I'm not drunk. Most of my raps are written while drunk because the mood that it puts me into is one that is creative in that way. And that's a state I want to be in. Some people might think it's self-destructive. They might say you should learn how to write a rap without being drunk. But it doesn't really work that way. Because my goal, again, is not to be functional in this traditional sense. My goal is not to be someone who can do that necessarily. I don't know if I could or couldn't, but it doesn't bother me to think that I'm a guy who gets drunk and writes raps and goes on mad rants. That's just a kind of person that exists in this world. And it's not necessarily agreeable to everyone. And I don't necessarily ask anybody to accept it. There's a reason you can choose to subscribe to my channels. It's not like you are being forced to appreciate this kind of content just because it exists. You make a decision that you're in for my wild ride. That's why it's Digibro After Dark. The original channel, the original purpose, to explain it in exacting detail. And I've started to come to terms with this lately, that I have had this long-standing fear of going all the way. And I shouldn't, because in this world, every time you do something extreme, people are afraid of going to extremes. People are afraid that when they go to the extreme, then they're going to alienate a lot of people. But the truth is that for every person you alienate, you also appeal to someone new. Someone who's on that extreme with you, or who appreciates that extremity. And if you don't go to those extremes, then you don't bring to light that they exist. Because as we try to homogenize and make everyone the same and tell people don't go that far, we're just trying to pull everybody into this middle where those other thoughts and emotions you have, they're not getting talked about, and therefore they're not being understood. Nobody can understand something that they don't hear about. And they need to be understood, because when we try to close up our society into this tight little bubble, then that's why when the slightest errant thing happens, suddenly nobody gets it, and that person is an outsider. I think that the way to bring everybody together is not to try to make us all into one person, but to understand and come to terms with our differences. To say, I don't agree with the way you're doing things, but I understand it, and I'm going to leave you alone. Because it doesn't affect anybody for me to be a weirdo in a YouTube video. You get to choose whether or not you listen. You know, my right to swing my fist ends where your face begins, as they say. And everyone has their own ideas about where the face begins these days, which is sort of what's causing this incredible wave of political correctness in our culture. And there's definitely a disturbing element of it, where I have to wonder, if you keep pushing your face out further and further, then somehow my fist has to recede back into my body, and I just have to pretend like I don't have an arm. That's where I feel like it's going. That's what I'm afraid of happening. So, I feel like over the years of my career, I've been like this. Just trying to reach out and hoping you'll come closer. But I need to show the rest of that arm. Here's what I mean. So, when I started my YouTube channel, the Digibro channel, it was originally a My Little Pony review show. A My Little Pony Friendship is Magic review channel. And the concept of it, the way I handled it, was to be very saccharine. Because I was putting on a character. The whole idea of the channel was that I was sort of playing this Digibrony character. And he was accessible to everybody. I don't even think that I swore in the early videos. It was all meant to have this certain image. But then there was an aspect of the brony shit that is this total outsider, weirdo, crazy shit that I also thought was really interesting. So I made Digibro After Dark so that it could be a place to explore those things. The first video on here was about pony hypnosis. It was this idea that you would try to listen to these tapes and try to hypnotize yourself into believing that you were a My Little Pony character, which is hilarious and deeply fascinating because a lot of people seem to think that it worked for them. So I had some videos about exploring that idea. It's fringe stuff. It's out there stuff. But I want that stuff to be understood. I don't want it to be something that we all pretend we're not doing, that nobody, only weirdos do that. Well, weirdos are people. Weirdos are a part of the society. Weirdos are your next door neighbor. If you don't understand weirdos, if you just want to imagine they all live in some faraway land, then you're just misunderstanding the world around you. And this is how we get something like what happened with this presidential election, which as more time has passed, I've kind of understood more and more how much, when Donald Trump got elected, people, liberals, just were so baffled because they had made no attempt to understand why people liked Trump. They just brushed it off as, those are weirdos. Only weirdos would feel that way. Instead of trying to understand those weirdos and to figure out who is our neighbor, who are we living next to, what are they thinking? And suddenly it affected the liberals. I almost said us, but I don't really consider myself a part of that group. But suddenly it affected everybody because we didn't know who half the population was. Or the other half, depending on who you are, you know? And for someone like me, if I try to pull back and be like, I'm not going to drink on camera, I'm not going to express these out there opinions I have, I'm going to try to be normal, I'm going to try to be accessible, then it defeats the whole point to me of making videos, of explaining things, of trying to make you understand that there's just weirdos out there, and sometimes they make sense when you hear them talk. I hope I make sense. When I make a video like Girlish Number and I call it Anime of the Year, I know this is like an outrageous claim to a lot of people. I know that to most people, the idea that this is the show of the year just doesn't make sense to them. And I'm not asking anyone to agree with me. I'm just asking you to watch the video and then to go, oh, okay, that's a kind of person who exists. Now I know. And now I get why they feel that way. I don't feel that way, but since they explained it so well, I understand the person standing next to me. And now, when a show comes out that you don't understand the appeal of, you can at least know that the people who enjoy it have a reason. They're not just crazy people. They're not just people with no taste. They're not just people who somehow don't get it, who just have broken minds and just don't understand what is good. They're just people with a different metric from you, people who are experiencing something different, who have a different way of looking at the world, or just a different understanding of the things that they're seeing. So that's why there has to be these drunken rants and raps, because you need to hear about this person who exists, this person who doesn't know another way of dealing with their problems, or doesn't know another way of expressing themselves, because there might not be another way. And whether you find that difficult to come to grips with, it's just the way that it is. I'm not somebody who can just one day decide, oh, you're right. This is an upsetting lifestyle. I'm going to change everything. Thanks for the advice. If you're here to watch someone explain themselves, present to you how this is possible. And what I want from you is not to try to change me, but to try to change your mind about me and think, okay, this is not my life, but I understand that this is a person who exists now, and I can think about what that means for society, what the things that I want society to be would mean for this person, because society, affects all of us. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure what I've just said, but it felt like it had to be said anyways. I don't know why it had to be said looking off into space, but I probably said the words and fewer times than usual, and stumbled through words a lot less, and that's because I didn't have to look at myself while I was talking. Also, I lost my new sunglasses already. Fuck.